Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to be starting on a new book of ours called It's Always Freezer Season. So this is Ashley Christensen of the Pools Diner cookbook. This is her second cookbook and it came out pretty recently. She got the idea for this cookbook when she was making the Pools Diner cookbook, and she had lots of things left over, so she ended up freezing batches of them, and then that makes cooking later a lot easier because you have something to start with. And so that was the basis for this book. So it reminds me an awful lot of This Will Make It Taste Good. So sort of having these things available to you in your freezer or whatever, in this case, definitely in your freezer, to help you make a quicker meal later. So it is summer here and our basil has been going crazy and it was time to sort of trim it back, and which means we usually make pesto. So today we're going to be making pesto from this, and I'm going to be using some of it today for our dinner, but this should make plenty, and then we're going to freeze it. So once we get this made, I'll show you how she says to freeze it. There are a couple of other recipes sort of in this section that she handles the same way, but that pesto is all we're going to be making today. But there's an interesting method that I don't think I've ever done with pesto before, and I'm not going to show you all of this step, but what we're going to do is we're going to, this is our basil, by the way. This is probably a little bit more than she calls for. I weighed it out. I picked it, washed it, dried it, weighed it out, because this does go by ounces, which was very helpful, because sometimes you're like, I don't know how much do I pack it down? Anyway, so this is a lot of basil. If you don't have a basil plant, you should probably grow one if you have the season for it. They grow very, very easily, and the bugs don't like them nearly as much as some other things. So we're going to shock this. So the way we're going to do that is, I've got a large pot of water coming to a boil back there. And what I'm going to do is fill up this strainer with some basil, and then I'm going to dip it in the water for about 10 seconds, and then I'm going to take it out and I'm going to shock it in ice water. So what I'm going to do is sort of empty this out onto I've got a kitchen towel back there. I'm just going to empty that out on a kitchen towel. I'm going to put ice water in here to be able to sort of shock it when it's done, and then we're going to put the result back onto the kitchen towel. And we're going to do this probably 2 or 3 batches, but it's just 10 seconds in boiling water. So we'll be back when that's all done. Got my water coming to a boil, my ice bath ready. We're just waiting now for the boil. Okay, first one going in, 10 seconds. I expect it all to just float out, but we'll see what happens. All right, that's not all of it, but okay. Let me see what else I can do here. All right, I'm gonna put this in the cold water to shock it. There we go, try to get these out. All right, well that is something. All right. See how much it deflates. All right, there's one. Do 3 batches. gonna let my basil leaves just kind of sit back there for a second because we don't need them right this minute. But she says to make this in a blender, so that's what I'm gonna do. Take out my garlic clove, which I had sitting in my pine nuts, just because we don't need that right now. We have a little bit of pine nuts here, not toasted, just plain. I keep mine in the freezer, but I took them out a while ago so they're not frozen. And now we're going to add some of our salt, actually all of our salt. And about a third of our olive oil. She says extra virgin olive oil. This is just the stuff I keep all the time. It's not super special, but that is what I've got. That's about right. All right, so we're going to blend this to a puree. I guess good enough for me. I don't see any big pieces of nuts in there, so that's good. And now I can put my garlic in. This is just whole. It doesn't say to cut it up at all. And now I need my basil. So what I'm gonna do is squeeze out as much of the moisture as I can. My towel will probably get green, but I don't care about that because I don't really care about those towels. I keep all my old towels for things like this, just clean, but in a different drawer, so I have the ones I don't care about. I'm gonna do this over the sink. So that huge bowl of basil that we had is now just this little ball that I'm going to put in here. And my towel is not very green, so that's good. So, and then we're going to add the rest of our olive oil. And we're going to blend it until it looks creamy. So I'm going to use the puree setting. I don't know if that's right, but that's what I'm going to use. Kind of looks creamy, I guess. Hard to say. Still see pieces of basil in there. Good enough for me. And then the last thing we need to add here is some cheese. So there are two kinds of cheese, and there's an awful lot of cheese, and I just had my husband buy it pre-shredded. It's supposed to be finely grated, whatever. This is what I have. It's pretty finely shredded. Not quite microplane, but whatever. And so this is, I don't remember which is which, but I think this was Pecorino Romano, and then this is Parmesan. So we're gonna add these in, and then we're just going to blend until it's just mixed. I might blend a little bit longer just because my cheeses are a little bit larger, or, ground a little bit larger, shredded a little bit larger than sort of microplane, but here we go. Let's see. I'm gonna get a thing and push that down the sides. It's my spatula that's kind of seen better days because it's been in a food processor and gotten nicked a little bit, but it's not gonna hurt anything. I think that's it. So there's a little bit of salt, but a lot of cheese, but no pepper or anything else in this pesto. It's nicely bright green. That shocking, the basil should help keep it just bright green so it won't go dull. We'll see. So we're going to use a little bit of this with our dinner tonight, but there will definitely be leftovers, and we are going to show you how to freeze it after that. Freeze whatever's left over, like she says in the book. So we'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, so we've eaten dinner. We just had some pesto pasta. It was really good, by the way. I thought it was a good recipe. I enjoyed the pesto pasta, and so did everybody else. So that's good. I just added it, like a dollop of it to the pasta and a little bit of the pasta water, stirred it all up. It was really good. So I put this plastic wrap on top just to make sure the top didn't get too brown while we waited. And I put it in the refrigerator too. But now we're gonna prepare it for freezing, and I'm just gonna stir the oil that kind of separates a little bit into it. And I've got a baking sheet with some parchment paper that's supposed to overlap the sides by at least a couple of inches, but you know, oh well. So I'm just gonna put this on the baking sheet so we can freeze this. There we go. And I'm just gonna spread it out. And we're gonna put this in the freezer. Hope I can find a nice place for it to be flat. And when we're done, when it's completely frozen, she says 4 hours or up to overnight. You don't wanna leave it like this in the freezer for too long because it'll get a little bit freezer burnt. But that's pretty good. And then tomorrow, because I'm not going to do that after midnight, tomorrow we'll come back. We're going to take the full sheet of pesto, put it on a cutting board, and just use our knife to cut it into smaller bits. However big you want is fine. And then put that into a freezer bag, a plastic freezer bag. And then when you need a little bit, you can take out as little or as much as you need for your recipe. I've seen it done in ice cube trays, which is also fine. That's another thing where you can kind of take as little or as much, although as small as you get is, an ice cube. But yeah, that's it. And with this recipe, there's also a chimichurri recipe and a salsa verde recipe where you freeze them both pretty much exactly like this. And so I'm always looking for a good chimichurri recipe. I've had a hard time finding one that I like. So hopefully I'll be doing that one again, or hopefully I'll be doing that one soon. We have tons of mint, although my parsley's not doing well, and my cilantro, I just killed the cilantro. So I'll have to buy those, but basil's really easy to grow. Anyway, if you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and come back and watch me make something else next week. Okay.
Say cheese.